Okay, so I hope you like the 2-minute bridge presentations. We had to stack a couple up there together. Next in our lineup is a bright star of civic technology, and that's Rachna Choudhry from PopVox, where she's co-founder and chief marketing officer of the firm. Rachna was listed as number 6 on the 2014 list of Digital Citizens of the Year. Pretty impressive. We have to credit her and her co-founder, Marcy Harris, with making one of the most opaque aspects of government, namely federal legislation, into something approachable, interesting, and even actionable. Joining Rachna will be Stephen Roberts. He is the J.B. and M.C. Shapiro Professor of Media and Public Affairs right here in this very building at George Washington University. Together, they're going to speak about leveraging technology to empower constituents and inform lawmakers. Enjoy the interview. Please. Welcome our guests. Come on. All yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for being here. As it was mentioned, I actually teach in this building upstairs, so I will refrain from having a pop quiz at the end of the. But I am used to grading people who sit in these chairs, so. We're delighted to have you here. In fact, I teach a course in this very building on this very subject. It's a course that, as many of you would understand, you try to teach a course like this out of a textbook. The textbook is out of date the day it's published, right? So it's a very interesting experience to try to teach around here and teach this subject. We download course materials as close as an hour before class. That's how dynamic this subject is to teach. It's like trying to get your hands on a very rapidly moving subject. But Rachna here is going to talk a bit about her company and the way they fit into this evolving communications universe. And my first question to you is, what is different? What is disruptive about what PopVox has come up with?
When we launched PopVox, it was based on our own experience with advocacy. I had been a lobbyist for various nonprofits for many years, and I realized there was a huge disconnect between what Congress needed, the information Congress needed to do their job, and what people were trying to say. And the result was that people were just banging their drums louder and louder, hoping that there would be enough noise and that their signal would get through. But in reality, it was too much noise, too little signal. So what we did was just try to grab all the data we could on legislation in real time, and then layer on top of that what the issue experts were saying, advocacy groups, trade associations, and then invite individuals to write a letter to their member of Congress, and we'd verify them as constituents. So when Congress receives their letter, they know that they're a real constituent. But probably the most disruptive thing is we make all of that data publicly available, so in real time for every single bill pending before Congress, you can see what support and opposition looks like from registered constituents.
Now, if someone in this audience said, well, how, if I'm at a trade association, I'm in an advocacy group, how do I use this? How do you access this and implement the service you've got?
So any organization is welcome to add their issue expertise to PopVox. So we have about 1,000 organizations that actively post their position statements on bills, and even if they're a nonpartisan organization that doesn't take positions but just has some issue expertise on whatever issue it is, they can add that information.
So it can be an analysis of the bill, not just we're for or against it, but
exactly.
This is its implication, or this is what it would mean, or this is how this provision would affect other issues.
Exactly. And that not only informs that congressional staffer that maybe her boss said, hey, I need 10 minutes to figure out what my position is on this bill. Well, PopVox is a good resource for that crazed congressional staffer to go in and see where organizations are, who's supporting, who's opposing, who the boss is going to tick off if they co-sponsor the bill or not co-sponsor the bill, and then also see public constituent sentiment drilled down by state or congressional district. So having that all in one place makes that staffer's job much easier.
Now, in reading about this organization, one of the things I also spent 12 years as a congressional correspondent, mainly for the New York Times, so I'm fairly familiar with the interaction here. And one of the things that you say about PopVox that really interested me was your emphasis on personal stories. That you know, we all know, we've seen the scenes of petitions get trucked down to congressional offices, and we see the scenes of the carts, and they get thrown in the, you know, in the circular file. Part of what you're trying to accomplish, it seems to me, is personalize those petitions and those numbers, so that a staffer can hear a real story as opposed to just a mountain of statistics.
Exactly. There's so much technology available that speaks to quantity, right? Oh, this petition has 1 million signatures, but then when you look at the petition and half the signatures are like Mickey Mouse or something, literally people sign as Mickey Mouse, it doesn't have the same weight to that congressional staffer.
Actually, Mickey Mouse has been nominated for state treasurer in California. Go ahead.
See, there's always second careers for everyone. So what ends up happening is that entire petition seems kind of like fluff. What we're trying to do is bring back that quality conversation. And when I read letters on PopVox, which I love to do all the time on so many bills, people start their letters with "as a mom" or "as a doctor" or whatever their own personal issue expertise is as to why that bill is so important to them. And that personal quality statement makes it so much easier for that staffer to do their job and for that member of Congress to use that as an example of why they should or shouldn't co-sponsor legislation or vote for legislation.
I was thinking about this when you look at the State of the Union address, how the president built the entire State of the Union address around the story of one woman.
Yeah.
Rebecca Earler from Minnesota, who he had gone and met and had lunch with, and the whole story of a recovering economy, he tried to tell through the story of this one woman. And it reminded me of what you're trying to do, about the power of individual stories to embody these policies and these large legislative issues, but they really do come down to the impact on individual families, individual people.
Exactly. And at PopVox, what we're trying to do is put, I guess, meat on the bones of legislation. Legislation is dry and wonky. People don't understand it, but when you read a story about why that matters to someone, that really makes a difference and helps people connect with that legislation. Our tools are also socially shareable, so you can write a letter to Congress and then share your letter, not the legislation, but your own story on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is that you use. And that way you become the face of that wonky political issue.
Now, how do you answer the charge that this is AstroTurf or is subject to this kind of manipulation? There's a whole industry out in the city of people generating and campaigns and public pressure in different ways, and a lot of it is not legitimate. A lot of it is not authentic. How do you separate the manufactured campaign from the more authentic or legitimate one?
Well, we want to make sure that we're not spamming Congress, because we want to help Congress and not make their problem even worse by, oh, here, have more letters. So what we do is we verify every single constituent that comes through our system. We verify their home address and we verify their email address with a one-time click-through. And that way we know that their information is accurate, and that helps Congress know that they're a real individual. But then also, we make them jump through hoops. They have to do all this verification, and that's how we prevent just anybody creating 10 different accounts or profiles and just add more noise rather than having authentic conversation.
Now, what kind of feedback do you get from the Hill staffers and others who are your key stakeholders? Do you sense, as PopVox has become more known, that they understand the difference and that they are trusting more this verification process?
Yes, and with staffers, I often get a lot of high fives because they're like, yes, they're verified people, and you don't fax these letters in, and you send them to us the way we want to receive them.
What's faxing?
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's funny. I can't explain it either. So, but I think what makes it like the proof that people are looking for is one, we're integrated with the House Democrats' internet system. So in real time, anytime an individual adds their letter to PopVox or an organization adds their issue expertise, that information is shared with the staffers' internet system. And then also now the Library of Congress is.
You said Democrats. You're not integrated with the Republicans?
So we would love to integrate with the Republicans as well. Their technology is different in terms of an internet system, so it's just a little bit more complicated. So hopefully.
But you are nonpartisan.
We're completely nonpartisan. And the second interesting thing or exciting thing for us is that now the Library of Congress is archiving every single letter written through the PopVox platform for their National Digital Archive. So these letters they matter now, but then from a historic standpoint, hopefully they'll matter 10, 20, whatever years from now.
Well, this is an interesting point because I'm married to a historian who is now writing a book about women in the Civil War, and the written material is so wonderfully rich, but you wonder whether a historian writing about this period in the future will have access to this kind of material because there are no diaries, no letters. You're saying you're actually building an archive that can be of value to historians in the future?
Yes. And we're hoping that the Library of Congress does something exciting with it in the future beyond just what PopVox is doing. But even now, you can go to PopVox and see every single letter written in this Congress, but then also past Congresses as well. So that information does exist. And if you want to look back and see, which organizations supported some bill that was introduced 3 years ago, you can go back and have access to that information. And that's going to help inform policymaking today, just as we hope.
How do you deal with the troll problem? I mean, every organization, every news organization has a huge problem with any comment space is taken over by either vitriolic commenters or partisan campaigners. And many news organizations have either shut down their comment space or have gone to heavily moderated, protected spaces in an attempt to preserve civility. How, when you're a public platform like this, how do you deal with that very significant problem?
Well, one of the things that we did, in addition to verifying each constituent, so each individual has to provide us with a bunch of their contact information. So that kind of helps dampen the troll issue. Right. But every time you're given the opportunity to write a letter, you're directing it to your member of Congress. And it says, "Dear member of Congress, I support blah, blah, blah because ... And then you have to finish answering that ... The issue becomes that since the individual is writing to their member of Congress and not just venting on the site or directing it at other people on the site itself, it's a very targeted communication. We also...
Do you find that has a civilizing effect?
Yeah, because this is their opportunity to not just inform their member of Congress, but then they know that letter is going to be available publicly. So it's their chance...
With their name on it?
With a screen name on it. So to protect their own privacy.
But they have to register somewhere with their real name.
Yes. Yeah. And when Congress receives their letter, they're getting their real name. And sometimes people are okay with getting mad or using 20 exclamation marks or swear words to their member of Congress, but they might not be okay with that when they're trying to inform other people of why they believe in this particular issue. We also have this feature called Appreciate, and it's kind of like a like, but I didn't want to use like. So we have, hey, you might not agree with them, but you appreciate that the thought and effort they put into their letter. So see, everyone's chuckling because of that. So with the Appreciate function...
They get the reference. Yeah.
With the appreciate function, which is like this instead of a this, their comment floats up to the top. So they have a vested interest in making sure that their letter is quality enough that they get some appreciates, and literally it floats up to the top.
But that depends heavily on the quality of the community, right? I mean, appreciate is a fluid metric depending on who is doing the appreciating.
Yeah.
But so part of what you must be trying to do is attract a certain community of commenters who are serious, so that appreciate means something serious as opposed to just repeating, say, a partisan talking point.
Yeah. And if you look at our general user base, the ones that are registered, that write letters, they on average have written more than one letter over the course of their participation. And if you think about it, how many times have you written a letter to Congress, like a real letter, not just signing your name to a petition or a form letter? These are people that do have something to say, and then we invite them to come back by sending them an email, kind of taking a page from Netflix, right? If you like a certain romantic comedy, Netflix will recommend other romantic comedies.
I think Amazon did it before Netflix.
Okay, well, I just used my own personal experience on Netflix. So that's what we want to do. If you like animals, and the bill got introduced about polar bears, and yesterday a bill was introduced about pets and cats on trains, we'll send you those. Hey, you weighed in on a polar bear bill. Here's the bill about cats on Amtrak. Weigh in, share your voice. And people do.
One final quick question. Do you have that journalists use this site to track down people who might embody a piece of legislation, might make a good story for them in terms of their own reporting on Capitol Hill?
That's where we want to go. Already we see journalists that come to us and read comments to kind of get a feel, like the flavor of the direction they want to take their story. But oftentimes they'll ask, hey, this person had a very compelling story and they're from Ohio's 4th Congressional District. Is there any way we can communicate directly with them? And right now we don't have that set up automatically. But in the future, that's something I think we definitely think about. Literally allow members of the media to connect with people if people want that, and have them be the face of a story.
Excellent. Well, Rachna Choudhry from PopVox, delighted to have you with us. And again, thank you all for joining us here at the George Washington University. Come back. Thanks very much.
Thank you.